Hello there, I'm a day late reviewing 2011's The Cabin in the Woods. Ah, the cabin in the woods horror movie trope. There have been plenty of movies about teenagers, or not much older thans, going for a vacation out in the woods, only to have it all go horribly wrong. Most famously, Friday the 13th, Deliverance, The Evil Dead, Misery, There's Nothing Out There, Sleepaway Camp. There's a ton of these films, because as more and more people have become city-bound, the whole out in nature thing has become an alien experience for them. The setting itself is great for horror. You have isolation, a lack of resources, unfamiliar surroundings. What more could you ask for? If you haven't already seen it, and you really like smart horror, check it out before I diminish your viewing pleasure by explaining the plot. This isn't your typical slasher in the woods movie, and going into it cold will give you some nice surprises. I will say this, however, the movie is the brainchild of Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard, both of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and its spin-off Angel fame. If you like either of those series, then you have a little idea of what to expect. But be warned, this is rated R, and it leans into the horror tropes. Not only does it lean into the tropes, but it gives a reason for why those tropes exist. At least in the context of the movie, that is. So buckle up and get ready for The Cabin in the Woods. Our movie opens in a break room with two white-collar drones talking about personal stuff. Meet Sitterson and Hadley. As they make their way to their office, they are joined by Lynn, and she tells them
Stockholm went south.
Sitterson and Hadley are nonplussed. Apparently it is common for the Swedes to fail. Lynn warns that it is now down to Japan and the US to succeed, but neither man is impressed, saying Japan has never failed and that the US is number 2 in their success rate. After a couple of snarky comments, they leave her behind as they head off. Just what sort of horror movie is this anyways? Cut to an unnamed college somewhere for a gratuitous shot of a girl in her panties.
Oh, yeah.
Now that's more like it. This is what a horror movie is supposed to be about. This is Dana, one of our chief protagonists. She is soon joined by her friend Jules. Jules tells Dana that it will be fun to get away from the campus for a while, and they are soon joined by Kurt. Kurt is played by a pre-Thor Chris Hemsworth. He and his girlfriend pay homage to an 80s drugs commercial.
What is this? What are these? What are you doing with these?
Okay, I get it. I'll leave the
No.
books.
Who gave you these? Who taught you about these?
I learned it from you, okay? I learned it from watching you!
Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
Parents who use drugs have children who use drugs.
You can definitely feel Whedon's input in this movie. Next we meet Holden, a friend of Kurt's that Jules wants Dana to hook up with. And then we have our final member of the party, Marty. He seems familiar. Oh yeah. Kurt has a cousin who recently bought a place out in the boonies and has said they can use it for the weekend, and so our intrepid adventurers set off. We get a little bit of character interaction and learn that our stoner Marty is only too happy to be getting away from the overbearing rules of society for a while. This is soon followed by a stop at what is charitably referred to as a gas station. The service attendant screams hillbilly serial killer, and our band of adventurers get a couple of gallons of gas and continue down the road. As they continue down the road, we get our first inkling that everything isn't as it seems. And not much later, our protagonists arrive at the cabin in the woods. It's about what you would expect from a horror movie. Soon they select their rooms, and we learn that the cabin is being watched. Governmental surveillance of U.S. citizens? Thank goodness this is just fiction. It is here that we get a bit of the ground rules for what's going on.
They have to choose to ignore him, and they have to choose what happens in the cellar. Yeah, we rig the game as much as we need to, but in the end, they don't transgress.
They can't be punished.
Our protagonists begin to party that night, and the alcohol starts flowing, and the inhibitions start coming down. They decide to play a game of truth or dare. When we get to Dana, a noise from the basement is heard, and they dare Dana to go down into the basement. Once down there, Dana gets scared and screams, bringing the others to see if she is okay. It turns out that the basement is full of all sorts of odds and ends. Marty is freaked out by all this stuff and he wants to leave, but the others apparently haven't heard of the adage, curiosity killed the cat. As it turns out, unbeknownst to them, all of the items are linked to some sort of evil force.
Choose the form of the
Instructor.
Dana finds a diary of one Anna Patience Buckner and begins to read aloud from it. It's fairly creepy stuff about inbred cannibals, and there is a warning.
That a believer will come and speak this to our spirits. Then we will be restored and the great pain will return. And then there's something in Latin.
Surely she won't read the Latin.
It doesn't even mean anything.
Dana!
Dolor super vivo caro. Dolor supplimus caro. Dolor igneo animus.
This brings the Buckner family back, and soon the pain will begin. Meanwhile, down in the control bunker, this is cause for celebration.
Turn.
Back in the cabin, our group decides to go their separate ways, with Kurt and Jules going for a walk out in the woods, and Marty goes to his room to get higher and read, leaving Dana and Holden to get to know each other a little better. Out in the woods, Jules and Kurt become amorous, and we get some clues as to what this is all about.
Does it really matter if we see her?
We're not the only ones watching, Ken.
Gotta keep the customer satisfied.
The Buckners show up and kill Jules, and we get our next big clue as to what's going on.
This we offer in humility and fear, for the blessed peace of your eternal slumber, as it ever was.
As it ever was.
Marty then decides to go for a walk, but he doesn't get far as Kurt returns in a panic. They race back into the cabin, and Dana and Holden want to know what's going on. Kurt says that Jules is gone and they need to leave. Dana doesn't want to leave her friend behind and opens the door. It's one of the Buckners, and he has a present for Dana. They manage to lock the front door and race to their rooms and try to secure them as well. Marty discovers that his room is bugged, but before he can tell anyone his discovery,
Bogus.
in her room, Dana is trying to secure it and a zombie crashes through the window. Things get exciting for a bit, but Holden breaks the two-way mirror between their rooms and pulls her into his room. They soon discover a trapdoor in the floor and drop down into the cellar beneath once they see it as clear.
Excellent!
Great. It's the torture room that they read about in the diary.
Bogus.
They begin to look for another way out when Holden is hit in the back by the bear trap of the large Buckner. The large Buckner then tries to pull Holden up out of the cellar. Dana grabs onto Holden and the large Buckner is pulled halfway into the cellar. Dana grabs a knife off of the nearby table and kills the large Buckner. Kurt then opens the door to the rest of the cellar with all of the knickknacks and they leave. They make it out to the camper and then they make a break for it. Meanwhile, we learn that all the other places in the world that were running a similar project have all failed. And we get our last big clue before it will be spelled out for those not paying attention.
Gotta go.
You
Work to
guys
do.
are humanity's last hope. If the ancients rise, we...
Sitterson and Hadley then notice that the tunnel our protagonist came through at the beginning of this movie is still open and the camper is getting near. Sitterson makes a dash to the demolition department, only to find out that there has been a glitch in the system, and he tries to trigger the explosions manually. He manages to cause the tunnel to collapse as the camper enters the tunnel. Our protagonists manage to stop and back out of the tunnel before being buried alive. But now they realize that they are stuck on the wrong side of a very deep chasm, and they have no way to cross it. But Kurt has an idea. He gets a nice running start and...
Bogus.
Holden and Dana get back into the camper, and Holden says that they will drive through the forest until they find another way out. He almost has Dana believing that they will succeed when he is killed by one of the Buckners who is hiding in the back. The camper veers off the road and drives into the lake. Dana manages to get out of the camper, leaving the Buckner to drown. Dana makes it back to the pier and then begins to cry. Meanwhile, down in the bunker, we see the party break out. Apparently their work is done, and we learn that Dana's death was not required. In the background on the monitors, we see Dana being attacked by the large Buckner again. Oh yeah, it's not dead, it's a zombie. As the party continues, we hear a phone ring, a red phone. From the expressions on Sitterson and Hadley's faces, this is serious. Hadley takes the call, and we hear this.
Which one?
Cut back to Dana trying to get away from the large Buckner. Things aren't looking good for her when... Marty! They race away from the pier and head back to the cabin. Only Marty leads her to a grave, and it turns out there's a trapdoor in the bottom of the grave. Inside is a cell with a dismembered Buckner. Not only that, Marty has discovered that there's an elevator just below them. He jury-rigs the electronics to get the elevator to go down.
Oh, how convenient!
And the two jump in. Two of the elevator's walls are clear so that we can see it descend past several levels, and it comes to a stop next to a dark room. A werewolf then smashes into the clear wall, and the elevator starts to move again. It comes to a stop, and Marty sees a little girl in a ballerina costume, while Dana sees a leather-bound man holding a sphere puzzle, and she puts it together.
They made us choose how we die.
We then pull back and see a whole menagerie of monsters. We cut back to the control bunker, and Sitterson and Hadley are losing their cool. They're on the comm system shouting instructions to security that two of the subjects have made it into the bunker and that they will need to kill the male or everything will be lost. They find our protagonists on the security monitors in one of the cubes, and they send the cube to the security floor. Fortunately for Marty and Dana, there's only one guard, and they are able to overpower him. They exit the cube, and a voice comes over the intercom. It is the director of the bunker. She explains that she is sorry that this hasn't gone to plan, that our protagonists have seen and experienced horrible things. But there are higher powers out there, even more horrible than what our protagonists have seen, and they have to be sacrificed to keep them happy. Security then arrives, and Marty and Dana hide in the security booth. As bullets smash into the reinforced glass, Dana gets the bright idea to open up the cubes. Marty nods his agreement, and the cubes open. It's a bloodbath. Soon the bunker is swarming with monsters, and the bunker staff is being killed left and right. Dana and Marty are forced to leave the security booth, and they find their way to an immense chamber. The director shows up and explains everything. Jules, Kurt, Holden, Marty all have to die as a sacrifice to the Great Old Ones. Dana is left to fate. She may live or die. If the other four aren't sacrificed, the Great Old Ones will rise again and kill everyone on the planet. So she makes a plea for the sake of the rest of humanity. Dana is about to kill Marty to save the world when she is attacked by a werewolf.
Missed it by that much.
The director goes for the gun, and Marty and she fight over it. As Marty gains the upper hand, he is warned by Dana that one of the Buckner zombies is about to get him. He rolls onto the ground with the director gaining the upper hand. As the director is about to kill Marty, she is killed by the zombie. Marty then pushes them both into the pit below. Marty sits down next to Dana, and she apologizes for almost killing him, and he apologizes for letting a werewolf attack her. They decide that maybe something better will arise from the ashes, and a giant hand bursts forth, destroying the cabin. The end. And there you have it, The Cabin in the Woods. I don't mind telling you, I love this movie. Granted, it's nihilistic as all get out, but I really do enjoy the meta concept of it. That monsters are real, and all the scary stories that you see in here are inspired by real-life events and are done to stave off the wrath of the Great Old Ones. It's complete nonsense, but I found it very entertaining just the same. The film does pose some interesting moral questions. What do you do when the fate of the world is in your hands? Obviously, these kids never saw the Wrath of Khan growing up.
Logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
And I can certainly understand wanting to hurt those that have hurt you. In this case, everyone in the bunker was killed by the monsters that they had held captive. Isn't that enough? Does the rest of the world have to die because you are going to die? People that had nothing to do with what happened to you are going to die also. And in the case of our protagonists, note that I do not call them heroes, the answer is yes. That's a really bleak look at the youth of the time, and certainly not an example that should be heeded. Of course, this isn't a message movie. It's all about entertainment, and entertain it does. As a horror movie, it strikes all the right notes. There's some humor in it, some nice character moments. It gets tense and suspenseful. Of course, there's some gore in there for the horror fans. It's well shot, well acted. There's just a lot to love about this movie. It was directed by Drew Goddard, best known for The Cabin in the Woods, Bad Times at the El Royale, and several episodes of The Good Place. He does a great job. It looks good, it's well paced, and he gets great performances out of the cast. Good job, sir. It was co-directed by Goddard and Joss Whedon. Goddard's best known for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, its spin-off Angel, The Cabin in the Woods, and Netflix's Daredevil. Whedon is best known for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Avengers, and Avengers Age of Ultron. It stars Kristen Connolly, Chris Hemsworth, Anna Hutchinson, Fran Kranz, Jesse Williams, Richard Jenkins, and Bradley Whitford. They all do a great job, as the film is an ensemble piece, more than just focusing on one or two characters. It was rated R for strong language, graphic violence, and some nudity. It's an hour and 35 minutes, and it goes by pretty quick. It cost $30 million, and it made $70 million. So even with Hollywood math, it made money. Not much, but it did make a profit. It has a 7 out of 10 on IMDb, Metacritic has it at 72 out of 100, and Rotten Tomatoes has it at 92% per critics and 74% per audience. Normally I would agree with the audience over the critics, but in this case, I really enjoyed this movie, and personally I'd give it about an 8.5 out of 10. And I say, check it out. As always, thanks for watching. Until next time.
It's one small step for man.
Now cut that!